got it. I'm turning it on right now. Okay. So you guys may have noticed that I made some changes in the syllabus for a number of reasons. I want to get more material in before we do the second exam, and so that you have what you need to work on the project in a rational manner. I put up a document that describes what the requirements of the project are, and I also put up some good, some really good versions of the projects that a few students did in previous semesters, so you can get a look at what they did, in response to what the description of what this is. Okay, so Dave, you're not late. We just started. Okay, so at any rate, at least we just started the lab portion of this. Well, I'm going to give you a number of choices for data. You'll notice that a couple of the one of the studies that you're going to sample studies involved some data involving flu vaccination that came from a study we provided for them. Some other stuff came from a few databases that we made available, but I'll give you at least four possible sources for data, and you'll be able to choose which ones you want. And we're going to have like an interim period there where you're going to I'm going to have something on Blackboard where you can kind of upload a description of what your plan, what data set, which of the data sets you plan on using, what you plan on doing with it, and so on and so forth. So I can make sure that you're not going way off on a tangent or something like that. But as we move forward in the next week or two, you'll get a better idea of it. So on this coming Wednesday, I'm going to post a recorded lecture, one of Levi's recorded lectures. I'm going to also post a pre-recorded, maybe a half hour lab, kind of a preparatory lab, or maybe just answering some questions that may come up, particularly questions that come up on Tuesday night. I'm setting up a review session for Wednesday night. It's not mandatory; it's completely voluntary. Between 9 and 10 p.m. and I'll as quickly as I can after that, I'll put that online so you can, if you can't make that time, you'll be able to see what we have there. It'll be kind of a combination of kind of office hours where you can ask me questions or describe issues and stuff like that. Or you may, if I don't get a lot of questions, I'll just go ahead and kind of do some prep work for that little interim exam. Okay. Now, downside of the interim exam, you got to do it. I want you to do it. It's a 2-hour thing. You get one shot at it. You start it. If you have a disaster, email me. Somehow or other we'll do a makeup or something like that. So don't freak out if something goes wrong. The idea is it'll be approximately 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. Have a few problems on it. And once you start, you have to complete it. So just like as if you were sitting in the classroom taking an exam, you can either do it during that second half of what we would normally have as our lab period, or you can do it any time between Wednesday evening or whenever we make it available to Friday at midnight. Okay, so you can pick the time when you want to work on it. I really want you to do it before Friday, and you will not be punished for getting a bad grade on this particular one. Okay, you can only improve your grade on this one or keep it the same. You won't be punished for it unless you don't do it. You have to do it. Okay, that's one proviso, is that you have to at least attempt it, because I need this for feedback to know where you guys are. Because as I was mentioning to people here, it usually by this time I get a lot more people that have completed the assignments. I noticed assignment 4. There was more people that hadn't really been able to complete it yet, that had started but weren't completing it. Did well on first test, we should not bother taking second test. No. If you did well on the first test, I said that I would be off people that had a disaster on the first test. I told you that I was going to offer them some mechanism for raising the grade on the first test to some degree, so that so that they could say take a kind of a semi makeup, and then we would average the two grades, but with a maximum of 90%. So if you got 90 on the first test, there's no reason for you to take that makeup. Okay, so that's
So we
only,
shouldn't be taking this?
I'll be contacting the people that got under 90% on the first test to let them know that they could take, no, the interim step, Deborah, I, let me back up a second. You're gonna have, a test number one. Some people did not get a very high grade on. If they had a problem with test number one, I'm going to offer them a makeup. Okay, I'll contact them individually for a makeup. But the makeup, the proviso on the makeup is that you'll have a shot at getting a better grade. We'll take first test and the makeup and we'll average it. But no matter what you do, you can't get over 90%. If you already have 90% on the first exam, there's no reason for you to take that makeup because you can't get a grade higher than 90%. Unless you really want to practice, I suppose. But at any rate, that's the deal. This interim exam, right, which is not in the syllabus that you're going to do on Wednesday, is just going to cover confidence intervals and one sample t-test because I want to get some feedback on how well you know this, and I want to make sure you know this as we move into two sample t-tests and chi-square and analysis of variance and so on and so forth. It's important you understand these concepts to understand the ones that are going to follow. So tomorrow night, a practice session, confidence interval t-test. Wednesday, just pre-recorded stuff. Don't come here. There'll be nobody here. Pre-recorded lecture, a half-hour pre-recorded lab, and then that 2-hour exam that you can take on Blackboard. That you can start either
Wednesday,
then.
no class.
Don't come here on Wednesday. Yeah, you're going to take that 2-hour thing online. Unless you want to take it here, you can always come here and take it here.
It's 9 to 10 tomorrow.
I'm sorry, 9 to 10 tomorrow. Yeah, I picked a time that was late because I figured it'd be most likely for people to be available and stuff like that. Okay, so at any rate, so, all right, any questions on that? And you'll notice that I described the changes that I made in the syllabus. And again, it's so that we learn more about these tests before the project is due. And so we have a little bit of time to review, a little bit more time to review before we have exam number two. If you can imagine, exam number two would have been right after July 4th, right, right when we come back. Not much time with people to prep for it and stuff, and also it'll push you off learning these other tests, so it'll delay you on working on the project. And to be honest with you, that's not usually that big a problem when we're in the normal semester and every class is a week apart. Right now we have 6 weeks of classes that are going to take place in the next 3 weeks. So it's a lot more compressed. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if you have time, but can you do one example of this t-test thing?
We're gonna do tons of examples now. Okay, that was a question. Can we do some examples of t-tests between tonight and tomorrow night? We're gonna do lots of examples of them. Can we take the test earlier in the day on Wednesday, or is Wednesday? I'm going to try and post. Somebody just said the same thing here. I'm going to try and post it earlier, so that maybe even shortly after the session tomorrow night, so that you guys can get started on it if you want to. Apparently, a lot of people trying to take off for the weekend pretty early. I got really getting that impression. Okay, what are sessions? Exam 2 is going to cover 2 sample t-tests, chi-square, odds ratio, and analysis of variance. It won't cover regression. And it'll really only kind of test on analysis of variance. I want you to know enough about analysis of variance to use it if you need it for your project. I mean, and when we get to that, when we get to cover that, you'll understand what it does. That's a little bit different than the t-test. Imagine the t-test, you compare 2 means in the t-test. In analysis of variance, it allows you to compare multiple groups for their means at the same time. So in a t-test, you're comparing group A to group B, the mean for population A and population B. With the analysis of variance, you can compare population A to population B to population C to population D and cover all possible permutations of it using one test. In other words, is the mean for group A different than the mean for group B? Is the mean for group A different than C? Is the mean for group B different than C and D, and so on and so forth? You can do those all at one time. So it allows you, it gives you a bit more power and allows you to do it in a way that makes it less likely you'll make a type A error, an alpha error.
What's the first thing you said would be on test 2 before chi-square? Two sample.
2 sample t-tests, yes. Okay, but I'll document it all. That's now remember, test 2 now is a week, is an extra week away. Okay, so we have some more time to prepare for that. We have all the next week to get ready for this. I'll give you a lot more detail on that. Okay, so yeah, Friday by midnight, yes. The test will be available by Wednesday, yes. Okay, maybe I'm trying to, maybe like late Tuesday night is a possibility. I've had a couple of requests for that already. Okay, so keep it in mind, but there will be some recordings that I'll put up for Wednesday. You can watch you don't have to watch them on Wednesday, right? They probably won't be all that relevant to this exam, except maybe the portion, the half hour that I do that's kind of prep, and what I do tomorrow night if you want to review that on Wednesday. Okay, so let's get, now that we got some of the details out of the way, I'll put up an amended syllabus so you can see see the details. It'll include confidence interval and single sample t-test. The